is in response to the comments, but you don't look homeless. And given certain controversy over another YouTuber whose channel blew up practically overnight when she wrote about being homeless and living in her car. I won't name any names because she doesn't need any more exposure than she's already had. There are a lot of sort of questions and doubts as to her authenticity. And one of the, well, not one of the comments, but several comments that I read, I mean, don't get me wrong, I have doubts as to her authenticity as well, but the comments that kind of irked me a little bit were things like, oh, I could tell she wasn't really homeless because she's too well presented, and, you know, her hair always looks too clean, and her clothes are clean, and her, you know, she's well manicured, somebody said. Well manicured. That was an actual comment. And I felt a little bit obliged to respond to that as I manicure my own nails here. Now, when I was a successful business owner and I had houses, I had two of them, one in America, one in Australia, rentals. I've never owned a house. And I used to go and get a manicure and a pedicure, I don't know, every 4 to 6 weeks at a salon. Probably cost me $100 or something. Because it was, you know, my business to look well presented and I could justify it. Well, it's not my business to look well presented anymore, and nobody cares if I do or I don't, but I still do. I like doing my nails. I like taking care of myself. I like dressing up from time to time. I like putting makeup on. I keep my home the way I do, not for display purposes, because it makes me happy. It's my safe place, you know. It's my safe, nurturing space. And I do object to that. You know, you can judge a person's homelessness by the way they look. You don't know people's personal circumstances. You don't know how they became homeless. Like, you would not know anything about my life by looking at me. You wouldn't know that I had once run a successful business and that I had money to be able to buy whatever I needed and to rent houses and fix my car when it broke down. You would not know that I had suffered a debilitating, crippling autoimmune condition that had rendered me unable to walk or stand or function or use my hands or wash my hair or anything like that. You would not know any of that. You would not know that I had PTSD and that, you know, at my doctor's and psychologist's urging, it was that I stop working, cease my business, and go on disability for the sake of my health, because it all gets worse with stress. It's like saying to somebody, you don't look disabled. I don't look disabled. You know, what does disabled look like to you? A wheelchair? You know, when I use a cane, I look disabled. But when I'm lying in bed in pain and, you know, struggling to pick things up and dropping things, or, you know, I don't really want to have to keep explaining to people what my disabilities are, and I don't want to have to explain to people why I became homeless, and my homelessness is legitimate, you know. Like, yes, I have a roof over my head. That was because of advanced planning on my part, because I knew this was coming. I could see, you know, and maybe it was still sudden and shocking and disrupting and life-altering for me, but the path was becoming clear that it was going to get to a point where I wasn't going to be able to afford traditional housing. So I found this caravan for sale online. It was $3,000. It was the cheapest caravan I could find online that was still registered and towable and functioning. And as you would have seen if you've seen earlier videos, it wasn't in very good state when I got it. I have deliberately opted to camp in remote places to save money. Cheaper camping means that I can squirrel away a little bit of money to get something else done to the car or the caravan, get things fixed, buy some paint, things like that. You know, sitting still, not traveling all the time, not putting petrol in the car all the time. I do that so that I can save up for something that needs to be done. A little bit of busking from time to time got me my new prescription glasses that I needed to get, got the dog's vaccination done, her public access test, things like that, you know, special treats when I go visit my son in Melbourne, and that might be a big outlay for me. So these are options and choices that I've made in order to survive. But when you say somebody doesn't look homeless, let me tell you, I looked it up online, and the actual definition of homelessness, and I even think I screenshotted it, so I will post what it said on the government website, but it's something along the lines of, has no permanent place of residency, no security of tenure, so no lease or, you know, anything like that. And, you know, obviously the consequences of that are catastrophic on mental and physical health. No sense of community connection, inability to maintain friendships when you're on the move all the time. You feel you're in a constant state of anxiety because you don't know how long you're going to be able to stay there, which is why I usually ask up front, how long can I stay? What's your maximum stay? And stay as long as that. But eventually the time comes when you have to move on again. And I've been literally in flight mode for the last 3 years and 3 months, I think it has been now. June, July, August, September, 3 years and 4 months. Nearly 5 months. Nearly 3.5 years I've been in this permanent state of, where am I going to go next? How much petrol is going to cost to get there? How long can I stay? How much is the camping? Can I afford it? You know, this is where my brain has been at constantly. And that is as a form of stress, you know. It's not relaxing when you're in that state all the time. And you know, my psychologists and doctors have been very concerned about that, you know, that your risk for exacerbating the illnesses you already have or developing new ones is heightened when you're lacking those, you know, if you've heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's like a triangle, you know, and the bottom layer is basic essential human needs like food, water, shelter, and I can't remember what the rest of the layers are, but I know that things like love and creativity are right at the top of that pyramid. And the concept is that basically, you know, there are certain tiers of human needs that need to be met in order for the higher ones to be attainable. And when you're in this bottom level of survival mode, have I got enough food to eat? Where am I going to sleep tonight? You know, have I got clean water to drink? That's the very bottom tier. Everything else becomes irrelevant when you're in that survival mode. And, you know, when you have things like PTSD and things like that, which causes a heightened sense of fight, flight, freeze or fawn response, you know, your adrenal system is overworked and burnt out, and when that goes on for years and years and years, it's quite hard to change that mindset, to sort of feel calm and reassured and better in where you are. But I've got to admit, like, in a way that I didn't even realize would happen, just being back in a place that is familiar to me, as far as I know how to drive from A to B here, I know where the major shops are, I know the roads, I know every road of the Sunshine Coast to Brisbane like the back of my hand. I have people here that know me. I know that if you know, if I got sick or if anything happened, that there would be people there to support me. And that's something I haven't had when I've been wandering around everywhere else. So it's been amazing to feel this sort of, you know, I think I said it when I first pulled in here, I feel like I can breathe again, you know, like, yeah. So anyway, that's irrelevant to the point. The point just is, you can't judge someone's homelessness. And if you are questioning, if your definition of homelessness is the unwashed, smelly, drunk person lying in a doorway on a cardboard box, is what you think of as homelessness, because that's what's portrayed in the TV, and, you know, that's all you've ever seen. That's the visible homeless. They're the visible homeless. But there is a whole bunch of us out there, invisible homeless people, who, you know, yeah, we might have been fortunate enough to get ourselves a cheap old caravan or a tent, or be sleeping in cars, or whatever it took. And especially women like me, you know, slightly older women, who have gone through either divorce or death of a partner. They've lost their main source of income and support, you know, health crises, employment crises, things like that. Us women are pretty resourceful, and we come up with ways, because we're proud and we don't want to look like we're struggling, and we don't like asking for help. So I come across them all the time, because they come up and talk to me, and we talk about this situation. Like, you know, we are the invisible homeless, and there's a lot of us, and that is a bigger crisis than just the ones that you see on the street. Not saying that that's not a crisis. People with drug addictions and alcohol problems who can't afford, even on disability, I've always been able to afford camping fees somewhere, and that is my first priority, is to pay my camping fees. I've rarely had to go free camping. I've done it for fun sometimes with like the kids at New Year's and things like that, but I prefer to have a powered site. I prefer to have toilets and showers and amenities and a laundromat, or laundry facilities, or at least a laundromat nearby, so I can wash my sheets and bedding and things that I can't wash in a bucket. That's the choice I made, and I don't spend my money on alcohol or drugs or cigarettes, thankfully, so I can afford to pay for a camping fee, and that's, you know, that's important to me. So yeah, you know, just don't judge people, and don't say stupid things like you don't look homeless or you don't look disabled. Your concept of what that looks like might be a bit distorted, and, you know, by every definition known, I am homeless. I am technically and legitimately homeless. I cannot afford traditional housing, and I don't think anybody on Social Security benefit can afford traditional housing unless they're in a share situation, which, due to my other issues, I cannot share my space with another human being. I need my space, and this was the option that I created to best suit my particular needs, given that a normal house wasn't an option. So yeah, that's really all. So yeah, be nice to each other, and just, yeah, don't judge. And just because, you know, I was smart enough, I guess, and resourceful enough, and saw the disaster coming as it took a few years to, you know, fully take impact. I did have some assets that I was able to sell, as far as, you know, my car and my caravan in America. I sold them before I came back to Australia, and, you know, was able to at least afford to get myself something to house myself. But I'm so happy with my choice. I feel for all those people, families in tents, that I'm seeing everywhere now. It's just been crazy. This past trip, I've seen it more than I've ever seen it in all my travels around anywhere. Just people are really struggling, you know, really struggling. And if you're lucky enough to have the security of a house and the affordability to have that, you know, I don't begrudge you at all. Good on you if that's, you know, good on you. You worked hard. I mean, somebody said, why didn't you plan ahead for a disaster when you were working? Well, you know, I worked for a long time, and I paid my taxes, and I paid into my superannuation fund. And unfortunately, after my divorce, when we were going through a big property dispute, and I ended up being sued for the return of money that had been put into the property, which I didn't have, I actually drew on my superannuation, because there isn't an option to do that in financial hardship. You can draw on your superannuation, and I did that, and that was back in 2001. Since then, I haven't paid into any sort of fund to support me in my retirement or future. I certainly wasn't even able to save up for a house deposit or anything like that. And to say you should have foreseen something like this is a little bit hurtful, because I honestly thought that I'd be still doing the splits at 75, you know, like I didn't expect to be struck down by this debilitating autoimmune condition in my 40s. Like, that was not in the plan at all. So, but it happened, and for whatever reason, you know, the gift it's given me is the ability to discern when I'm in a stressful situation by the response to my body. I'm thankful for that. It's made me completely alter my life and my priorities, and I'm thankful for that. And I was being told for years, slow down, but I wasn't going to slow down. And eventually the body says no, like Gabor Mate says, and you have to slow down whether you like it or not. So here I am, happily homeless, and my heart goes out to everyone who's not so happy in their homelessness. My love goes out to everybody who's in a situation like this and like me, who still feels grief and loss and like a second-class citizen because of it, because I've been through all that as well. It's taken me quite a long time, 3.5 years, to come to terms with the fact that I'm okay with this now. And you've probably seen some of that journey in my previous videos if you've watched them. So anyway, my nails look pretty in pink today, and Pixie and I are just about to go walk in and pick up my prescription, and the sun is shining. Oh, excuse me. I went for a swim in the river the other day. It was magical, and it's actually feeling like Queensland right now. Sunshine and blue skies, and yeah, I think that'll help lift my spirits considerably. So take care, everyone.